when with my stories, if I'm looking cute and stuff, I want the people who I don't really like to be like, bitch, watch. I'm making my best.
Same.
Literally, I went out for
I would
drinks
look for them.
outside
I'm
of
like,
the
did
store.
you see that shit? Same, kind of like I gave up on school and shit. And
Wait. Hold on. What do you mean?
so I like completed my high school, but then I did college for like a year, and it wasn't my cup of tea and shit, so I let that slide.
Well, to each their own. Okay. So what have you been up to? Like, I'm interested.
Just trying to execute this whole thing. Like I started learning about social media and stuff and where I wanted to be. And it was super duper exciting to see where the world was going and how I could contribute towards it. And I felt like I had a knack for it. So now I have all these ideas which I'm trying to execute. So this was like kind of one of them.
That's amazing. I'm so excited for you. By the way,
thank you.
Do cool shit is like my little mantra right now. I'm reading it.
Yeah.
I literally sent a copy to my best friend, and she loves it as well.
I'm so glad.
It's making its rounds.
A very great friend of mine introduced me to it, and this was like just when I was trying to get into the whole stuff. And it's just it's such a doable book. It's not like just to read.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And I love that it's so practical. Like, she literally is like, okay, how do I do a brainstorming session?
Yeah.
Get a cool spot, get food, like mutually beneficial relationships, right? That's all you want. And I was like, oh, because all the other stuff is like, look inside your soul and, or you have to have like a ton of money, which none of us have. So it's just like, thank you.
I know. Like, it was the first book which actually, like, I was trying to think what I want to do when I want to grow up and shit. And then that book just starts by, like, how do you define success? And, like, you never have an idea of what it really means because all this stuff is not really taught in school. So, like, success is money and shit. But then when she actually got into it, that is when I started to, like, kind of shape my vision of what it means for me. And something like, I remember this one line that I really applied in my life, which was one of her friends saying what success meant to her was working on something that really lights your eyes up. And I prayed, I was like, I wish I find something that really keeps me up at nights and keeps my eyes sparkling because it sounded so cool. I never understood what that meant. And now I finally feel like, I mean, I'm there. Like, I'm kind of developing the whole thing. So, where are you right now?
I'm in Toronto, Canada. It's effing cold. Nobody likes this weather. But yeah, it's just been like a whirlwind of like different things, And it's just been like, it's super crazy. But I'm like I said, I feel like I'm finally getting my shit together. Adulting, hashtag. But yeah, and I'm just like, really just experiencing like, I love India. India is home for me, which none of my fellow Indian mothers and brothers want to admit because they're like, you don't look Indian. I'm like, am I supposed to look like butter chicken? I'm sorry. Like, and then, oh my God. Okay, let me tell you this one story that I got to tell you, okay?
Okay.
Like, in India, I know that, there was, like, kind of racism because like the Northeasterners and then the South and all this and that, right? But luckily and very fortunately I had like great friends, so like I never like thought about it, I guess, and like it never affected me personally, right? And not to say that like Toronto's like racist at all, no, it's great, but it's just like been such a learning curve because I suddenly, because my name is like the most Indian name you can have, Priya, right? And I'm like, thank you, mother and father. Like, my name is on every, like, pawn shop, every, like, bus, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, we have, like, the world, like, you have to embrace it. We have stereotypes, right? And so I come to Toronto, and the stereotype of, like, what an Indian is very, like, stereotypical. You're either, like, Punjabi or you're, like, Malu, right? And that's what, like, India looks like to them, right? And so I signed up for Uber. Everyone does it, right? So obviously, like, I don't think they're gonna scam me, so I put my real name on it. So I put Priya, right? The amount of times that my fellow Indian Uber driver has just driven past me because he doesn't think I'm Priya, right? Even though my location is on the dot, there's nothing wrong. Like, they will drive past me. It just makes me, like, want to shake people and just be like, let me give you a geography lesson about India. India is a beautiful country, and it is really big, and it has over 1 billion people. So I just had to go on that rant because I just, like, it was most prevalent in the last year. Like, obviously, like, I knew that I'm not, like, the most Indian-looking person, but also the fact that, like, I did uni in Delhi. Like, I'm, like, pretty desi. Like, literally, I had, like, one of my neighbors, she's from Delhi. She's, like, we were talking, and she's, like, Priya, you're so desi. And I was, like, yeah, I guess so.
So are you, like, enjoying living here? What are you doing in Toronto?
So, I initially came for school. I did journalism and mass communication, right? And so many people in India shit on it because they're like, oh, you're not smart enough to be an engineer or doctor. I'm like, no. In life, communications is everything, and finally the world is seeing how valuable it is. And I always give really conniving or, like, annoying aunties who are just like, why aren't you a doctor or lawyer, right? I'm like, okay, auntie. Quick question. Even if I was that smart to find, I don't know, the cure for cancer, right? If I had no communication skills, right? How would I convey this brilliant idea to, I don't know, investors at a pharmaceutical or even the UN World Aid, Red Cross, anything really that would help them, right? If you don't have the ability to communicate, and I'm not just saying it's like pitching, it is everything from, why is anyone going to invest in you? Why would a bank or an investor or, anybody really, even your friends and family, right? When you're saying, hey, I've got this idea for a business, why would they even invest in you? Unless they have like a ton of extra cash and they really don't care. But also just generally,
for sure. Even people who have a ton of cash, they're not like just trying to throw it around to random people.
Right?
Yeah.
That's how the rich stay rich. They know how to invest their money, right? And so it was just one of those things. And then I really, I fell in love with communications. And it was fascinating for me because obviously I grew up in though I grew up kind of in India and like different places in the world, it was so interesting because I got to see, obviously, the West is light years ahead of us, still, so to speak, but it's true, right? In technology, in cultural norms and changes and things like that. But then also in India and Nepal and, places I call home, such a diverse crowd, right? So I was doing like a lot of corporate communications, which I was like, I don't know if this is my thing. Like, my passion is social media and, things like that.
Yeah.
But also, you gotta work smart, right? What I realized is social media, things that I was fascinated about, is really things that you can honestly, you Google. And the thing is that there's no real syllabus because every day it changes, right? And then everything else that you want to learn is up to you. It's the University of Google, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And it's free.
Yeah. It's free. That's like the biggest advantage.
Yeah, so in terms of obviously I'm living in the West in a new country by myself, right? You gotta make ends meet. At the end of the day, I feel like the foundations for communication is pretty much the same, and it's how you expand on it and how if you want to go deeper into different fields of it, that's up to you.
Yeah.
So right now I am working in corporate communications at Rogers. So I'm doing some pretty cool stuff. I'm doing CEO and leader comms, which is amazing. It's a whole different portfolio. It's very it's intense, but also our corporate cultures are changing. So we're trying to take out corporate from corporate communications because nobody wants to be talked to, right? Our people are changing, things like that. So in a nutshell, oh my God, I just talk so much. Anyways.
No, I don't know.
I'm working at Rogers in the communications department, and I do a lot of leader messages and leader communications, so everything that we do internally. So it is internal communications, but on the side I'm always up to date with new trends and things like that, and that's just out of fascination. And I feel if you in my life, if I want to make that transition into agency or things like that, PR agencies and things, it's a much easier step. So I'm trying to work smart and do and obviously realistically the money is in corporate communications because finally companies are realizing how important it is to communicate externally and internally, and they're just again, it's not only just leave it for HR, it's all about communication. So for me, I've seen that and I enjoy it now. It's less creative, I'm not gonna lie, but it doesn't mean that there's no creativity at all, you know? Like, we still do, like, fun internal videos, and, you know, we're still using, like, not Slack, we use Yammer, but, you know, we're always, like, updating and seeing, you know, what are the new trends, what is Microsoft, Google, what are they doing, what is Facebook doing that's different, you know, Zappos, like, they have a cultural book and things like that, so it's a lot of, like, research and fun. So yeah, in a nutshell, that is what I'm doing.
Interesting. That's so cool. Actually, I was just thinking about it because just like because we're catching up after such a long time, so I wanted to like know what page you're on and all that stuff. But so do you want to like so my whole thing was that because I know you, like we're talking, but then the few people that I have not like few people, like I've spoken to this one person who I shouted out on my story. His name was Dom Jackson, and apparently we just got in touch because he used to follow this guy called Gary Vaynerchuk. Have you heard about him?
No.
You girl, you have to like
send because I like anything you send I'm gonna look into.
Dude, he is like such a huge mentor of mine. From him, like I've been learning so much. And this whole podcast thing is such a strategy for like virtually networking with people. Like I genuinely wanted to connect with you, so I did, and I would just keep complaining there's no one in Lucknow and all that shit. But I'm like, why is that fucking stopping me from like just building relationships with people?
Oh, for sure.
So I thought that it would just be so weird just to randomly start DMing people. So I created this whole podcast thing that I would like invite people as a guest and you know kind of build a relationship, build trust all across the world. And he was the first person I spoken to, and it was so random because he was living in California and I was right here and we were speaking for the first time. And I just had to like speak to him for like 5-10 minutes, but then we ended up speaking for an hour, and it was so dope. Like we were just communicating as if we were like friends forever. And why, and I was like trying to understand why that happened was because irrespective of how different everyone is, like everyone's going through the same thing, right? Like everyone wants to be happy, everyone's trying to make money, everyone wants to have like healthy relationships. So we're all going through the same shit. So instead of like spotting out the differences, like why not like just speak about stuff that all of us are going through together, right? So I thought that would be so interesting, and like just I felt like I have a little bit of people skills and like I can just speak with people and shit like that. So it worked out pretty well. Anyway, what I was saying about him was he was in the same industry as I'm trying to be in, creating a personal brand and all that stuff. You have to look at Gary Vaynerchuk die hard if you're even a little bit into social media and stuff. He's a genius. And he's been historically correct about so much.
Looking at him right now.
You have to. Like his content on YouTube, especially every day, I know you would fuck with him like super duper hard. So he's all about like building up content, making a personal brand is gonna trump everything anyone's trying to do. So we were thinking that I had like 1,000 followers, he has 1,000 followers, and then we both collab, and then it would be 2,000, you know? Like potentially, right? And then that's how we build community, reaching out to people. Like I work hard on my community, he works hard on his, from 1 to 2 to 3 or however, and then we keep collabing. And we like just exponentially increase this like we increase the number of people, and then everyone collabs together, getting value out of each other. So that is what we're trying to form. And if you're consuming Gary's content, you would be on the same page as everyone else. So I was thinking that to make this interesting and speaking with a lot of different people, instead of like asking them how old they are, what's their name, we just give an introduction by a question like, you know, like what makes you happy, and like just dive into the real shit, so we can actually like kind of get to know people. And I feel like not a lot of people talk about stuff like this, like because it's kind of uncomfortable and shit, but the real stuff that actually like kind of helps you develop into whoever you want to be.
That's a very cool idea. In terms of, it's just been like we're on this like whole new age of like our audiences are smarter, right? They're not stupid, and they can fan out what's fake and what's real. I'm actually like, I've been following a blogger. Her numbers have drastically dropped because people are seeing kind of how fake she is, right?
You caught on. Exactly.
Right? And I'm seeing these numbers, and then the thing is that they're not really doing anything for their content. This is what, even in that book, it says, you know, being comfortable is the worst place you can be, right? If you're comfortable, what happens is that you become stagnant, and from stagnancy, you drop. Or they're going on the extreme and trying to create crazy content which like people are also just like, no, we're done. And I was reading this article which was like the age of the Kardashians is nearly over. It's coming to an end, right? Because how much stuff from a family. You don't think so?
No, not at all.
Not at all. So it's a lot of different perspectives, and also obviously how the way I use social media back then when I was like even 20, like 4 years ago, was so different how I use it now. Sure. Yeah. And I think what's really, really important is like social listening. And I feel like a lot of companies, and I know this is more in the corporate world more than the social media, so companies are really, really focusing on social listening, because that's like, you want to hear what the audience wants, right? And obviously saying, like, millennials now, we're kind of at that bracket of where we're growing up a little bit and we're done with clickbait, right? Yeah, I feel like just you guys creating a community of, like, talking about things that people don't want to talk about, right? Like, honestly, there's literally, like, thousands of pictures on my phone that no one is ever going to see the light of day of, because I am just, it's me, right? Like, I'm just like, oh, I'm not cool enough, or, like, my eyebrows aren't perfect, and, So, like, but then, like, it's funny because everyone goes through that, but no one really talks about it. I find like one YouTube channel that I'm really into is the Financial Diet. Amazing. Like, and the thing is that she's so smart with her money. I'm pretty sure she's a millionaire, but you don't ever see that in her videos. Like, because she's talking about how to plan, like she's giving advice on finances, right? And practical solutions. And I feel like, and her numbers are just growing because I feel like she knows her audience so well. She knows that if she suddenly starts changing her background of her YouTube videos to like lavish apartments and like Gucci and Prada and all this stuff, people are going to be like, okay, good for her, she made it, but I'm still like $20,000 in debt, right? Yeah, sure. So it's really all like the small things, and that's like when I find it very fascinating. Yeah, I don't know where I was going on. I went off on a tangent, but yeah.
No, I get it. It makes complete sense. It's so funny because why I told you to follow Gary Vee. He's like the king of social media. Why is that? Because he speaks about like everyone's trying to do Instagram, but now everyone's at a point, like influencers or whatever, they're like, look at me, I'm so pretty, and like unattainable lifestyle and shit. And people will follow you. They will get fascinated by it at the same time that they would like feel like shit themselves, like they're like, I look like shit, fuck that shit. But what you don't know about it is the person took like 50 pictures and got like one picture right with like Facetune and perfect lighting and like, hair done and all that shit. What he talks about it, he's like, why will people consume your content in the first place? Is because you bring them value. That is how your audience stays. Like this guy trying to give fitness advice. I told him that he's trying to like, why everyone from the Gary Vee community? Because anyone who's consumed his content for long enough is in the right mindset. Like why all of us are trying to build community is for a bigger reason, so that we can kind of have an impact, and not just as not like the fancy like I want to change the world and shit, but just genuinely bring an impact. I was like, wait, what do I have to offer? But then I'm like, I started really, really noticing how people were in these cycles of kind of not like being honest with themselves. Something like just with Instagram, right? Like I used to do the same thing, like having these fancy ass pictures, and they're not that fancy, but then they were like just, like once a year I would post some shit, and like when you're just having a great time. And I was like, I hated seeing my Instagram. I'm like, that's not me. Like I don't even talk to those people anymore. Like what the fuck? So I just, and I would just send my picture, an ugly ass picture of me. I would send my sister like a random picture of me without thinking twice. And I was like, how, like, it's so different. Why am I giving so much thought to Instagram and like just sending her a picture? And then I posted those two pictures on Instagram, like, fuck this shit. I couldn't care less. Because I understood, I was trying to see, because the whole social media is online. So if I fail, if I look stupid, like people see it. It's not just me, right? So I was like, if I'm, right. So I'm like, if I'm like the most scared of what people would think of me, if I admit it, and if I admit my insecurities, like I'm insecure about how I look and all that shit, it was one of the most liberating things for me to move forward from. Because I remember, like, I was speaking with you and I told you I would post these documentaries and share on YouTube, and I have recorded tons of them, but I never got to post them because I would look at them and I'd be like, I look stupid and all that shit. But I felt like what I've come to realize is that when I look the best, it's me. And when I look like an ugly piece of shit, that's me too. Like, why show like just the kind of a finished product of when you've become successful, when you look great, and not show that, right? And that is where people like kind of, I wouldn't say get bothered, but then the whole Instagram influencer thing is becoming like Instagram models or whatever. That's the whole side is becoming. People are consuming content, and therefore social media becomes toxic for you. They're like, social media is toxic for your mental health. Why? Because
Right.
it's based on who you choose to consume, right? So
Very.
I look at it like that, and therefore this whole building community thing is like all of us. No one looks like a fucking model and shit, and I'm no one to judge anyone. But instead of thinking about how we can post like cooler content, it's so much about how we can post something valuable that's going to bring people value and kind of like if you look at my like you kind of know me as a person and shit, right?
Yeah.
Therefore you would know you would fuck with me, but you wouldn't know if you fuck with me if I'm posting like a super cute picture, right? So this is how if you build up content and build your personal brand, businesses would be more comfortable reaching out to you. Like every person I've reached out to, they've somehow uploaded a video of them where I can see them, where I can kind of like channelize their energy and if I would fuck with them. And that's how I got connected. No one's trying to act fancy and stuff. So now I'm just seeing where this execution
Right.
goes and kind of, building it up. Like you build social media, but your intention becomes different and therefore your products become different. So I don't care about how I look anymore. I'm like just trying to, build good content where I can add value as a person and all that.
Yeah. I love that. I think we definitely need more of that, and we're definitely moving into an age of authenticity, right?
So true.
Now, the age of micro influencers and big companies, Nike is finally like, whoever's working on their social media team, they know what's up. Because I was reading this article, and they've actually, Nike last year, they partnered with, I think, 100 all over America, micro influencers. People who literally had 800, 500 to, I think, 1,500 followers. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's nothing in terms of ROI when you're looking for stats and figures, right?
For sure.
800 is really attainable. I mean, that's like if you went to a normal size high school. That's how many like followers you would have.
Yeah.
But their content was so good. They had so much engagement, right?
Exactly.
There was this.
That's the magic thing. Engagement.
Exactly. There's I don't know her name. She's like a Somalian refugee. She's lived in America. She's a runner. Okay, a great runner. Mm-hmm. She's like a high school pro. That's an athlete, right? Mm-hmm. She had about 800 people, like her normal, like just basically her school friends. Mm-hmm. But the great thing is that, her school was also really supportive. She used to wear a hijab when she used to run. No big deal, right? Mm-hmm. But her content was so real, so fresh. And it was just about her, some of the adversity she did face, at the beginning with, having to wear the hijab while she runs. Mm-hmm. And also just in terms of not only making it political, but also just telling her audiences, like, actually, it is a nuisance sometimes, but now, aerodynamically, she's figured out a way how, it won't, like, hinder her running, right? Yeah. That's her, like, just being 100% real. It's just, like, and so they actually partnered with her, right? Mm-hmm. And they actually, like, Nike was just, like, we've seen better results from micro-influencers, people with 800, 1,500 people maximum. And, again, they're creating not just a name for themselves, but they're really, like, creating the brand and the culture and what people perceive Nike as people who are more than just a sports brand, right? With innovative style, right? Yeah. We're people who care. We're for the people, right? Mm-hmm. We listen to you guys, right? Yeah. So obviously with, the taking the knee, what's his name, Colin? How am I so bad at names? Anyways, just the fact that Nike's doing this and, they've had backlash, but also, at the end of the day, people's voice wants to be heard and things like that. Like you said, social media, it's a blessing and a curse, honestly saying. A two-way streak, and I think, like, creating content that's also going to educate. Like, I'm not saying, like, teaching, like,
of course, I get
body, but actually educate them on, how to be better global citizens and actually start caring about stuff and stop being so submissive and, like, passive and, like, oh, I don't care, this doesn't affect me, things like that. And I think that's what, we really need to, like, see a change in.
I feel like that's the whole argument about social media being toxic is social media is just a medium. Like, we had radio, we had television, now you have Instagram, right? It's not its fault. TV can be toxic as hell. Some people is just gonna straight up sit for like 12 hours and watch TV and do nothing and be unproductive, and that could be toxic for you. But for some person, it could just be like consuming maybe news or some shit, right? Or just a favorite TV show like for an hour that really relaxes them. So social media also depends on me. Like for me, it's not toxic. For me, it's just consuming information, being educated, being on like spot on with the world, Whereas for a
Yeah.
person who's following influencers and just looking at their clothes and looking at their life and thinking, like, boo me, they're amazing, then it's toxic for you. So it depends from person to person. And therefore, we come to the conversation of, like, demonizing technology with TV shows like Black Mirror. You see it and you're like, fuck, like, I want to run away as far away as possible from my phone and like
Yeah.
just fucking be in a playground or some shit. But then it doesn't make sense, like the world is like we're only gonna like social media is not social media, like technology in general is just gonna grow. It's just like warming up with Alexa and stuff coming up. You don't have to look at your phone anymore. You just say shit and it's in your home, Yeah, I mean, I really think it's just human behavior, how people like perceive shit and what they want to give. Therefore, I feel like instead of complaining, like people trying to like show off their Lamborghinis and then actually renting a car but showing a lifestyle and shit, like instead of arguing about that, where it's not in my control, all of us, instead of like like just making the negativity louder, we actually make the positive side louder, which is that social media is going to help me connect with people all over the world. It's going to help
Right.
me. If I built an audience, why would it be like I felt like school really failed me and my teachers told me I was going to be a fucking loser and shit. And I thought that it did not ever take a negative toll on me because my parents would always hype me up. So I always had like super high self-esteem with like great friends and stuff. But my teachers, like people were bullied by kids, I was bullied by my teachers. It was like a very bad experience for me, looking back in retrospect. So I thought instead of like, like just taking it on me and keeping a grudge, why not kind of my whole reason of being super super successful is to not show off the teachers but like let even parents know that there's so much out there in the world than like just what box that we get put in, like my teachers, just because I did not score enough I was going to be a fucking loser. I'm like, you bitches, I want to fuck you up. Just kidding. But it was a bad experience. So my whole thing was like, the reason like we need to, my doubling down on social media and creating, not going to college and taking all these steps and creating wealth towards the next side is to bring awareness. It's not so much in India. Like people are really, really focused on education being the gateway for like security and shit. But it's really taking a toll on kids. And it's just been it's been like a little crazy.
Yeah. So I feel like so I am genuinely a believer that we are definitely in the age of like authenticity and storytelling, and if you can excel in that, because I think like a lot of people also, it's just like for school I had to like do this blog, like it was mandatory. I was like, I have no interest in this whatsoever. I did like a cooking vlog because I suck at cooking, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to do something that I'm terrible at.
Yeah.
Have a joke about it. Whereas everyone else in my class, they were doing something like they were passionate about.
I thought that was so smart as soon as you said it.
Like, I was just like, I'm just going to have fun with it. And mine was like super bright and kitschy and ugly and like every graphic designer's like worst nightmare, because I was like, that's how I want to roll, because I don't like cooking, right? So I'm not gonna like document my cooking and like my terrible cooking. So it was just one of those things. But it was like also funny just to like realize that social media trends and norms, because you're dealing with people and they're so tangible, and like a girl could have the right look, the best caption, have a lot of money to travel everywhere, or have someone to sponsor them or whatever, right? And yet, if, like, some people might just not like her because, she was that girl that, I don't know. Like,
forget about some people. Imagine about that girl. What I have a huge thing about is you post certain kind of pictures, you looking good. All of us do that. Like all of us want to look the part and all that shit. But what does that leave you with? You know what I'm saying? Whereas if I'm documenting you just documenting your journey of like being you sucking at cooking, right? But that made you laugh. That was sharing with people, like, like you can laugh at yourself. Life's not that serious. I wanted to do it, something different. But at the end of the day, it comes down to you, right? Forget about what other people think. Forget about someone thinks that you're fronting with whatever you're doing, right? It comes down to you. So I feel like what people are missing out is then they forget about, at the end of it, how do they want to feel? They always remember at the end of it, after me posting this picture, what will other people think about this picture? Instead of thinking, after posting this picture, what do I feel fulfilled? Because if you're trying to do social media, it's your full-time job. If you're really, really trying to do it professionally, So it's the
Yeah.
same thing, right? Like people are like, you would want to love your work because it's going to be half of your life. You're sleeping for 8 hours, you have another couple of hours, half of it is you just working. So wouldn't you want to really, really love what you do, something that fulfills you and make
Yeah.
money as a byproduct? Or just, kind of get lost into, because it could be really toxic, constantly just thinking about how am I being judged on the basis of how I look. I'm like, I have so much to fucking offer than how I look,
Yeah.
you
It
know?
has to take
Does that
perfect
make
self.
sense?
I love that. No, this is such a good conversation because, like I told you, for me, like I talk about all of this, but I myself am my biggest enemy, right? Like
For
I
sure.
said, there's thousands of pictures on my phone that no one will see just because I feel like, oh, my eye looks like one eye looks smaller than the other, or like, like my nose looks too big or whatever.
Yeah.
But also I like, I'm also at this point where like I don't want to use these photo apps because then I look inauthentic. But it's just like, yeah, but I'm too scared to even like post those pictures, so it's like this,
like, let's have this. Who are you scared of? Who the fuck is it that you're scared of?
right? Exactly. Like I don't know, it's just like it's really, really funny. And then you know what the funniest thing is, like I'm just like I don't, because I want this perception of people who, they're still my friends, they know me, but we don't talk on a regular basis. I want them to think like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
like,
I get
cool,
it, girl. That's me. My whole thing was like, what? I mean, I felt like everyone had a certain perception of me and shit like that. Like, ooh, the cool one. And shit. I was the cool one, dude. I was fucking 15 and I was living the life, because all my friends were old as shit. They were like all 7 years older to me. So we were already doing what people would have done when they went to fucking college. I'm like, bitch, I got you. And then that is what would come out, right? But then I felt like behind the scenes, it wouldn't always be so poppy, And I felt like I, as a person, have so much to offer than me looking a certain way, right?
Yeah.
And and one thing that I debunked was, like, say someone posting a shitty comment, or someone just thinking, oh my god, like she looks stupid, like her nose looks too big. Anyone who comes up with judgments like these is having a hard time for themselves. So instead of me getting offended, like, ooh, how the fuck did you say that to me? I come from a more empathetic side that I really, really hope that you are happy, so that that wouldn't come out. Like, if you're in a happy place, you're not going to critique someone on how they look. What if someone's just having a bad day, right? Like, people as a life, they have so much to offer than just bullshit like that. So if you
Exactly.
the people, so there was this quote also from Fight Club, like, people do things to impress people they don't even like.
Yeah, I mean, half of the time, and when, with my stories, if I'm looking cute and stuff, I want the people who I don't really like to be like, bitch, watch. I'm doing my best.
Same.
Literally. I went out for
I would
drinks.
look for them. I'm like, did you see that shit?
I went out for drinks last night with a friend.
Yeah.
We went out because I was so exhausted. I literally went out, like I went to work and then I went straight for drinks. I was at home by like 9:30. But I made it seem like I was having a great night. I hadn't gone out in months, Devika. Like I kid you not. It was literally just like, it had been like, when was the last time I actually like went out? Like I drink at home sometimes, but it's just like, when did I actually go out? It was like maybe like 2 months ago. But it's just like, oh, I gotta like flaunt it. And like honestly, and I got a little like, like I was like very, very like, I want to see how many people are like looking at my story, right? And it's not even like my besties, my sister, my brother-in-law. Like if they see it, I don't like. I mean, like I know that they'll see it, and I know they all have good intentions for me. But it was like the people. I'm like, yeah, I know she's been stalking me. I knew it, and it's just so terrible. I'm doing it for the people who genuinely love me and who care about my updates. I'm doing it so like the girl that like my ex-friend or whatever who like we kind of like had a rift or whatever. I want to make sure that she knows that I'm good, right? It's terrible. It's terrible.
It's all of us. It's all of us. Everyone's doing it. I was recently, I've been doing a lot of studying because I honestly have no fucking friends whatsoever since a long time. And it was weird having like a super social life and then suddenly having no friends at all. But then now I see the value in it because that just gave me so much time to like learn about myself. And then I was studying regardless, I was studying the one percenters. So one percenters are the people who are earning above 400,000. That's the one percenters. Like only 1% of the people all over the world make above that income level.
Oh,
So I was just
okay.
studying what is the difference in them, and the major difference in them was doing what the average person won't,
Right.
or not doing the things an average person would. And then I started kind of, this was a scale for me, like whatever I would do, I would always judge myself that is this what an average person would do? And if yes, then I'm going to be average and I'm going to be mediocre. And if I somehow
Right.
rise above that, not like I'm better than them in any way, but just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
different, making that different choice. And me posting, just I felt, I don't know, I really was not very proud, but definitely it was very, very liberating for me to like just post those pictures and not care about what people think. Because at the end of it, I was like, that means I'm not happy, where my
Right.
happiness depends on someone else looking at a certain version of me. Like me trying to like look good, like I'm not looking like that all the time. That's very
Right.
small percent. Once a year I look like that. So like, I mean, I genuinely felt like I have so much to offer as a person to people, and it's social media, and it's a medium for us to communicate to the world. That's how I see it, and like kind of like just break through that shit.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. I'm so excited. Like genuinely, like I feel like you're like you said, I do think that you're definitely like on the right path. And I feel like you connecting globally and locally is so important,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just like super excited to see like what's in store for you. Like you've got this.
Thank
and
you.
clearly you've done your research, so there's no point in me
Well,
preaching.
no,
Someone
having
who
friends,
more than
not having friends is like a major upside to do research because you have nothing else to do.
But you know what? And this is just recently also, though I was already just throwing shade at her.
I would love to
you
like
know, when I
listen to your
came to
take on like
Toronto,
friendship and shit.
when I first came to Toronto, I had nobody here, right? So it was hard, and I kind of had these perceptions because, from your college brochure, you're supposed to be
Yeah.
enjoying classes with your bunch of international friends on the green lawns. And, that's what I thought that, my kind of like college life would be. And, that,
That's
we
so
would
funny.
go every Friday after a hard week,
Yeah.
we'd all go to parties, or not even parties, but, like really
Like just
make
go
some
out,
meaningful,
like have a life.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
literally what you see in like movies and like brochures a lot. I don't know
Brochures.
why.
That's so funny. Like I can perfectly imagine like sitting on the fucking grass with like your
Exactly.
international friends and shit.
Exactly. So I mean, and I know, like, obviously, I know that there was a whole photo shoot and everything behind it, but you want to believe it, right?
Of course.
There was no one in the class that I really got along, like not got along with, but like could form like a great connection. There were like a couple of girls from India, and like I said, a lot of the times Indians don't want to believe I'm Indian, so they like really stuck to their group and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, cool. I mean, just saying, I'm a great friend, and also I'm pretty, like, I know what's up in Delhi, and like I could act, but okay, if you don't want to be my friend because you don't want to believe I'm Indian, sure, go for it, whatever. To each their own. But then there was like two girls that that we were pretty friendly with, but then obviously they had come to Canada and they already had their significant others here, so they were very much, like even just going out on a Saturday to the park. I'm not asking you to, let's get lit till 3 a.m. No, nothing like that. But
Yeah.
even just to make a commitment to come to the park or like go downtown, it was very hard for them because, they had their boyfriends and their fiancés, whatever. And again, to each their own. But it was really, really hard for me. And then finally there was this one girl, she's like from Canada. We got along quite well. She's a little bit older than me. But like, same kind of humor and stuff like that. And, she's pretty, she's like hardworking. She's a nice gal, don't get me wrong. But she is so negative. Like she sucks the life out of you with her negativity. And I felt like this year was like the first time in my life that I've met someone so capable right? So capable. Like I said, she's smart, she's good looking, she's hardworking, which is the most, because a lot of people are lazy. She's very hardworking. And I was like, kind of like, so what happened was that we had a little bit of a rift, right? And it was because of her negativity. Like, we had both gone into internships at the same time. I was having a great time, and she was having the worst time. And she was so negative that, like, my great time turned out to be bad just because I felt bad. Like, I felt like, and again, she was, like, one of my only friends here, so it was hard, right? But as a friend, you want to be there for, your friends and stuff, but, like, I just felt like I couldn't even tell her something cool that happened at my internship because it would make, it'd be like I'm, like, trying to rub it in her face, right? And the fact that I couldn't share my joys with her, but I could only share her sorrows, right? And it was a very, like, one-way. I mean, she used to text me essays. And just an FYI, I am terrible at texting. Like, if you want to call me. But don't ever, like, texting is, like, my worst way of, like, I mean, email me and I'll respond 2 to 3 business days, But texting, it's like I forget. It's just not my medium. But whatever. She used to text me essays. And in the morning, I get into office, and I would just see this miserable text from her, and it would, like, I mean, at the end of the day, I care about her, so, like, I'd be like, oh, crap, like, I feel bad for her, and then it would kind of make my day, when it could have been a great day, right? And it was really, really hard to realize that this negative energy was not good for me because it was really affecting me. But I was talking to my mom, and she was just like, Priya, and, like, obviously, like, in the good times, like, I would tell her, oh my God, she's, like, a great friend. Even my mom, she was just like, she seems like a great person, but Priya, also, like, you need to be very careful with who you surround yourself with. It is better actually to be alone than with very negative people, because it literally sucked the life out of me, because I was like, why am I so tired? Like, I'm not actually doing anything. I'm not physically laboring at work, and I was barely going to the gym back then, but it was just like, why am I so tired? And it was like emotional exhaustion because of a friend. And, and again, I don't want to, like, trash on her, but she was just a wrong energy for me, right? And it was the first time when I realized, like, I actually think that it's her negativity that has actually hindered her success. Because she has all the right tools, right? She's smart, she's hardworking, she has work experience, right? But she's not, and she's a little bit older, but, like, I can tell that she, like, her whole negativity was, like, she's not married, she doesn't have a boyfriend, but all of her friends are at that stage in their life where they're either married or getting really great promotions, and she was still, like, here, right? And everyone's up here. And honestly, it's because of her negativity, like, nothing else, because she is smart, she is capable, she is hardworking. Those are really all the things, and she, all the things you need. But I've realized it's also your outlook, right? Your thinking. I think she's already set herself to fail because of this negative thinking. And honestly, it is hard. And, a lot of people, when they talk about, like, oh, I don't have many friends, like, I'm so, like, now I've become so, like, confident with myself. I think that's also still, like, because I used to tell people that, like, I don't need that many friends. Like, I can go to a restaurant and eat by myself. And it's like, I can, but it brings me no joy, right? When I go to a restaurant, to be honest, I like to talk to people. So I end up, like, chatting with, like, the waiter or the waitress, because that's just me, So for me, I used to be like, oh, if I can go to the restaurant by myself, that means I'm independent. No, it doesn't. It means you don't have friends. But, like, also, like, I think, like, there's also, and there was this, like, great, another, like, those videos about, like, what actually is self-love, right? Is it really shopping and taking a bubble bath and this and that? Like, I mean, I do that on a bad day when I'm not even really thinking about self-love. It's just, like, I'm really angry, I want to buy this now, like, right? So, like, what exactly is self-love, right? And it's just, like, things like that. But I feel like self-love really is also just stepping away and seeing she's a great friend. And all the time I miss her, and it was hard. It's not like, oh, it's so easy. I barely have friends here, right? It's like, trust me. And I'm quite, like, a sociable person. So it was so hard to let go. But I really felt like in this year, if there was something that I did out of self-love, it was actually distancing myself from that friendship, not because she's a bad person, but because it wasn't right for me, right? And she's going through her own battles and stuff like that, but if she like calls me and I would definitely pick up. It's not like oh my god, she's a bitch and this and that. Yeah. But it's just also like I felt like it was so hard for me to let go, and part of me is I wanted to be like, okay, it's okay, but it wasn't okay because it was really affecting me. And I think for the first time, more than all my shopping trips out of self-love or bubble baths or whatnot, that was actually the most real like act of self-love for myself, which was difficult, right? Going to whatever the mall and buying stuff for yourself out of self-love, that's easy, right? You might regret it when your bank account is like $0, but like that's something that you'll figure out. But like this was genuinely like I formed a relationship with a friend who I cared and trusted about, but I needed to take a step back, and it just meant that there were many weekends where I literally did nothing all day. And I'm all about like the Netflix and chill life, just like.
But like for how long?
Yeah, but for how long? Yeah. And then that's when I realized, you just gotta, be out there. And I used to like be kind of like, because I think like I had always had like really great friends always like surrounding me and stuff like that. I got too comfortable. So I forgot how to even like interact with new people. And I think I had this little like stuck up nose about it. Like this, like I'm too good for anyone. And now I'm learning.
Yeah. Same.
I am nobody. And really at the end of the day, like I was my own biggest enemy because I was so stuck up in this world that I want friends like this, or I can only hang out with people like this, right? That I wasn't actually now I'm really just, I'm living in a like condo apartment thing. I have great conversations with the concierge people, and just really and it kills me because like I have such a big ego. Like I don't want to be the first one to make a move, even if it's for just like chicks and stuff, like honestly. But it's just like it's really humbling me, and it's just like, but then I'm also like I'm reciprocating because I'm getting so much like, okay, like you're so much knowledge off people that you're probably never going to talk to again. But it's just like I would never do that because before I used to be so comfortable in my circles of great friends who are still my great friends. Like I call them all the time and stuff like that. But also physically you need people to see, right?
Yeah, I get that.
So it was like a huge, I'm still in this learning curve. Like I don't think anyone really has perfected it. But it's still like this growing experience. And it's just really like it's eye-opening, and it's hard sometimes. Like trust me, like there are times like this morning I definitely like tried to keep myself busy, but like I'm not gonna lie, just even like last weekend it was like obviously like I'm watching TV, but it's like, oh, I wish I was doing something. And you see your other friends and they're out with their friends having brunch, and I'm like, I literally have no one on my phone that I can call just for brunch, and it's like it's kind of sad, but also it's like, but also Priya, it's your fault. It's not like I haven't been in social gatherings. It's I chose not to talk, or I chose not to follow up, or I chose not to give someone my number because I'm like, ugh, they just like really. It's just so it's big change, and I think like just also just even in terms of like reaching out to people. Like, I'm so glad you reached out to me, and I'm so glad that, like, because honestly, like, maybe, like, even, like, 6 months ago, if you had reached out to me, I felt like, I'd have been like, oh, yeah, girl, like, hey, nice, I don't want anyone to hate me, but, like, it would still be, like, maybe I'd be like, oh, that's kind of awkward, like, we haven't talked in a long time, like, that was, like,
you were so cool about it,
No, it's also because I'm realizing this, like, it's been a journey for me as well, right, like, who I am when I first met is someone totally different, even in like within the last year, right?
For sure.
So it's just been like, like I said, I have a big ego, which is terrible because you just think you're the best. You're really not. But also, it's just been like a big learning curve of like, I'm literally doing things that I'm just like, why am I spending money on this? But like, I'm like, just do it. And sometimes it's a terrible event, and I'm like, why did I even go to this, right? I went to a hip-hop dance class thing. It was terrible, like legit terrible. I am not a hip-hop dancer. I'm like, get me some tequila, maybe I can move. But like in terms of, and but the funniest thing is that my ego told me like, no, you're gonna be so good at it, and you're just gonna have all these. I cannot remember any steps and anything, and like everyone at like and I thought, you know what? At least I'm gonna meet people. No, everyone there was like pretty much horrible, like because they were so like into like they're all into the dancing, and to each their own, right? It was a terrible experience that I paid money for, right? But I'm so glad I did that, because now I know, and I can never regret, I never went to that hip-hop dance lesson, because now I know, number one, I am a shitty hip-hop dancer, and I cannot remember dance moves at all, so never make me dance for your wedding. But, it's an experience that was awful, but it's a great story to tell. Like, other people, they're like, oh my God, right?
Yeah,
and I'm like,
for sure.
It's great, right? And it's better than saying, yeah, I watched, like, 4 seasons of some show on Netflix, Yeah, for sure. So I'm definitely like learning to put myself out there and try and meet people, and like what you're doing. And I think it's really, really great, and like good for you, because people say, like, some people, they think it's super easy, like, just to, I don't know about you, but like even for me, just to like reach out to people that I even know and I went to school with, like, for my whole life, because I went to boarding school. It's so difficult, right? Like, like, what if they think I'm like being too desperate, and all these like ideas come and that. So this, like, when you did that, I'm like, wow, chicks got balls. Like, honestly, like, I like, for me, that's like not my strong suit. And I think, if you are, like, this is, you gain so much knowledge, even if it's a conversation, like I said, that you're never going to have again with that person. Yeah. But, it's just really great, I think, like, what you're doing.
It's so interesting to listen to your perspective on this, because first thing it reminded me about your whole friend thing was, it was a very, very similar situation with me. But then one thing that kind of helped me was this one quote that you are the average of 5 people you associate with most. You'll get that quote in Do Cool Shit, by the way. So that really changed my perspective. I'm like, everyone that I'm surrounding myself with, like, however cool of a life we have, do I see my values and the person I would want to be 5 years down the line in them? Are they uplifting me? Are they inspiration for me? Or do I like just feel, I mean, I there was a lot of love and attachment, but just because we spent time.
Right.
And the person who I was becoming started to move further away from the people I was associated with. And I just told myself, like, am I going to be at the average of 5 people? Because it's the truest thing. What that means is, if a person who's negative, you start taking in those characteristics and you start seeing them manifest in your life. Right?
Oh, yeah.
A person who's just, I don't know, maybe a liar or whatever, you just start to see those things creep up in your life. It's super basic. You just super get influenced with the thing that you're spending the most time in. And then I feel like the second thing was perspective. Like, when I reached out to you, if you wouldn't have replied and all that shit, like, it wouldn't really have bothered for me, because I felt like my intent was good. Like, I wanted to reach out, have a conversation, and I'm doing all these things. And I was becoming more comfortable with no's. I got 30 no's. People, like, ignoring the shit out of me when I said, like, would you want to be on my podcast? They're like, bitch, fuck, like, who are you? So I started taking a different approach of kind of approaching like-minded people instead of like just reaching out to people randomly. And when someone said no, when someone told me you're weird, when someone tells me you're creepy, it has nothing to do with me. I understand that it is something that they're going through. Right. They're having a hard time with themselves. Therefore, they would take the time to let me know that I'm a, like, I look a certain way, or I'm weird, or I don't have enough followers and stuff like that. So once you start looking how people are behaving towards you as an observation, instead of like, you did this to me, you ignored me, or you disrespected me. I just had a really interesting conversation with a friend of mine. Not a friend, like just a person I know. She was like, I was disrespected. They treated me like this. And I was like, who is anyone to treat you like anything? And so it was just a little shift in the words that I thought that was important. I was like, instead of saying that they treated me a certain way, you can just say that this is not the kind of behavior I welcome. Like, I welcome this sort of and not this sort of. Instead of you did this to me, I was treated like, right? It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with the person who's in front of you. If they're happy, they will never take the time to like kind of put you down. But if they're unhappy, they would do that. Because it's very easy to be negative, it's very easy to say like, what the fuck, like, why are you reaching out to me? You want to do a podcast? You're so weird. Like, I'm not trying to do a video call with you. I haven't like spoken with you in years, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not saying that would have been wrong. Like, some people are just uncomfortable with it, which is fine. Like, no more judgment. But just
get a drink.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry.
Are you in your kitchen?
Let me give you a little tour of my house.
Of course. With the view.
It's like, with a sick view, but the blinders are, wait, let me see if I can give you the view. You can see
it's so
not,
cool.
Yeah, it's the 13th floor view. You can see yourself as well. This is more like the hood.
I'm saying hi to myself. So, one of my goals is to move to LA in October.
Okay. Why, like, my question is, why LA specifically?
Because I felt like there's so many people I know that I would want to work with, and then that is the place where the whole social media and the whole movement thing is going. And I do feel like, I mean, the more I learn about it, the more I feel like I belong there. And here I'm just in my room, in my house, and like just cut off from like really, like just real people. Like my whole life is like in the computer and on Netflix.
Here's, and I know, like, I'm gonna sound like such a hypocrite because I'm not even at home, and here I am saying this.
Yeah.
My thing is, I feel like there's such a need for people like you in India because I feel like our media, our Bollywood. Have you ever seen a Bollywood actress that vaguely resembles me? Or, okay, not even me, okay, because we're like somewhat Chinese. South Indians, right? Apart from like the South Indian media, I'm talking about like mainstream Bollywood. You do realize you're like literally creating I can never say this, oligarchy? You know, where it's all like
a legacy?
No. Oligopoly. Say it again. Oligopoly, right? It just means that everyone, it says here, a state of limited competition in which market is shared by a small number of producers or sellers, right? So when all of your Bollywood actors and actresses are byproducts of a producer or another actor or this and that, right? Yeah. It's really annoying. And you know what, like, really got to me? Was when I saw this picture of an Indian bride on a big billboard in Delhi, right? And I was like, legit, I know this girl in the sense that one of my Nepali friends, she's a model, and she has a good friend, her name is, and she is from Brazil. I'm like, this is ridiculous that they are selling to women the image of a beautiful Indian bride is actually a Brazilian lady. Like, beauty standards, that's not even like that is like off the, like, how are you asking like the Indian population that this is what beauty is when you're literally taking someone from a different continent, okay, not even remotely Indian, and you're selling this idea that this is what an Indian bride should look like. I'm like, what? Like, okay, this is not even like a let's whiten her skin. I'm like, you're literally taking a different race and telling another race you should look like this. Why are we not seeing more colored girls, like, of like different shapes and sizes and how they look ethnic, you know, with their ethnicity and stuff like that, you know? It's just like, oh, now only we're having a little bit of praise for people who are dusky. I'm like, have you actually been to Kanyakumari? People there can even like look a little like African in nature because the melatonin on their skin is so dark. Never seen an Indian, like any Indian model that dark. It's like, oh, she just happens to be 2 shades browner than the Fair and Lovely girl. Oh my god, India's so aggressive. Like, it's so like just on that surface level, it's so shallow, you know. Why do I as an Indian not get to see any representation of people that look like me in Bollywood? Like, why do I always have to go to in my own country, why do I always have to have a backup story literally to just defend the fact that I'm from somewhere? Like, it's ridiculous. And I'm like, we need people in India to like hold these people accountable, but there's no one there. And then there's people like me who's like so passionate about it, but also I get told that, you know, this is not really your place because you never really lived in India. So
that
like,
has
you don't
nothing to do with it.
Yeah, like your English is like too foreign for you. It's just like, what? I like, seriously.
People tell me my English is too foreign. I'm like, bitch, I've never been out. Like, that's so weird. Just because I don't know, speak a certain way. It's so weird. I get it. I completely get it. It's funny you said that because I might just come across as like someone funny or something, but then I do believe like I'm super ambitious, and my plan is to dominate the country. But the thing is that I want to move to LA because I felt like I've come to my saturation point here, but I can't grow as a person. I'm not meeting people. I don't want to say like I'm smart or some shit, but wherever I'm going, I don't feel like I can.
You're not learning.
I'm not learning. It's all virtually. It's all up online. In real life, people meet me. They're impressed. They're like, "I love what you do." But then that only goes so far. Like when I'm not hearing when people talking shit about me, when they tell me that I can't do anything, I at the same time don't hear people when they tell me that they're impressed, because I know that isn't enough. I haven't even executed. It's just an idea, right? So
Yeah.
my whole thing is I want to put myself in a position where I'm so uncomfortable. When I'm doing nothing, I'm the dumbest person who knows the least. So I'm
Yeah.
absorbing the most, where I'm learning the most. And most of my mentors, I feel like there's this guy Jake Paul. I'm not sure if you've heard of him. I'm monitoring him very closely. He's 22 years old now. He's built this company that's worth $60 million, and he just started out with nothing, just with social media, and he understood how it works, and then he was able to work with. And everyone in LA has this whole vibe of like just working hard and making something of themselves. That's the whole
Working
energy
with
there,
each other.
right? Like
Yeah.
no one's chilling and vibing over there. Like yeah, that could be a part of their life, but at the same time everyone's trying to build a name for themselves. And here everyone's living off their parents, which is fine. Like it's not a bad thing or anything. It's just not something that I wouldn't do. And I
Mm-hmm.
see myself growing a little comfortable here. I'm like, why can't I live with my parents? Like, we're well to do or whatever, decent, like not super great, but decent, and like just, do this and that. I have like that's why I struggle with friends. Like, how long can you stay alone? I Today I was actually having a bad day. For two
Mm-hmm.
years I haven't like had friends, and I've just
Mm-hmm.
been like working, and it it's like kind of good, but there are days where you had it. Like today, I just wanted to like go out and like just. I'm not much of a complainer, but when I'm having a bad day, I would appreciate having my friends around and like just letting everything off,
For sure.
and that doesn't happen a lot. And I feel like I would want to go there, learn as much. That's what the goal is, not to be an influencer, though it would be a part of what we're doing, but it's going to be more about being a very, very influential person. Like everything
Mm-hmm.
I do has a genuine impact. And what's an influential person versus influencer? An influential person would be someone like Oprah, where
Mm-hmm.
influencer could be like just a person with a ton of followers, like an Instagram model. Kim Kardashian
Yeah.
is an influential person. What she does has an impact. Her getting this girl, Mary Alice or something, out of the jail was,
Mm-hmm.
she could only do it. She could get into the doors, go to the White House, get these people out from from the prison. Why? Because she was in a position of power. That is an influential person who actually generally brings an impact. So my whole thing was, as soon as I reached, I should also have some credibility, right? Like I have all these thoughts, all these opinions about Indian education system, but why would someone listen to me? Even if I make yeah, making a ton of money would help, but a lot of credibility as well, right? Like for me
Right.
to come from a position of power,
Mm-hmm.
people would fuck with what I say, but then parents would be like, like what does it have to do with my kid? So when I've
Right.
made something of myself, when I'm credible, when I've worked hard, and it's all up for people to say, that is where I feel like my words, my actions will have a bigger impact. And definitely, like I am from India, I've been observing. I did look at the Bollywood industry and stuff, because someone was like, why do you want to go to LA? Why don't you just go to Bombay? I'm like, there's not one person that I feel like that I fuck with. Not respect, like I respect people, but then there's no one I respect so much that I would want
Mm-hmm.
to work for them, I'm trying to
Yeah.
work for people like Jake would be like the biggest on the top of my list for free. I would sweep the floors just to work for free. Take a night shift at Whole Foods, because when you start consuming Gary a lot, you would understand he speaks a lot about humility. He's like the
Yeah.
fastest way to become the sun is to get the closest to it. So if you want to
Mm-hmm.
become, I don't know, Steve Jobs dead. If you want to become like Vera Wang, you better intern for Vera Wang as closely as you can for free. And why would he want to, employ me?
Mm-hmm.
What can I leverage? I think is my
Yeah.
time. Right? So me just saying I want to work for free, I don't want anything in return. And it's more of a long term vision than just short term money.
Yeah. No, no, no. I think that's so great. And I think, like, I only asked just because I was very curious, but I definitely think that, yeah, I think that's, like, a really smart move. That's also kind of what I did because, I mean, obviously, like you said, when I was living in Nepal, I was living with my family. I didn't have to think about bills or rent or, like, I mean, like,
Yeah.
everything, like my salary was basically my pocket money, which was great, and like
Yeah.
I didn't even have to think about anything else, and life was so easy.
Yeah.
um It was too easy. I didn't even have to cook, clean. What is that, right?
Yeah.
Like, cooking is what? And now I'm like, shit, I'm such a bad cook.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, and especially if you're really, I feel like, mentally you're so prepared for this. So definitely, and if you feel like LA is the place, then, all I can say is, like, I wish you all the best. I have I don't want to even, like, try and give you some advice because I know nothing about it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm going to tell you with my own, like, immigration experience.
Yeah.
And so, again, I did not get this internship because I'm a great writer or I thought of a great idea that saved my company millions. Nothing like that. It was literally because of my can-do attitude and also just the fact that I genuinely believed no job was beneath me, whether it was a coffee run, whether it was literally even just, like, printing out paper thing. I know that's, like, your stereotypical what interns do, but also just, like, nowadays I feel like we also are growing up in a generation of, like, entitled people, like, even people who are just coming out of university, they're like, I have a university degree, like, don't give me filing work.
That means
it's
nothing.
All hard work. Like, I hate to break it to you, somebody has to do it, right?
Yeah.
And if it's not you, then the person who actually needs this job and wants this job, like, they're going to do it and then they're going to excel because they've already put their foot in the door. So I knew that when I was going to take this internship, I just got to put my foot in the door, do what I gotta do, right? I literally, like, there was, like, stuff that I hated. Like, I hate Excel, and I was doing so much Excel work. But I'm like, no, and now I love it because now I've learned how to use it, actually. Yeah. Because I got this full-time offer, like, just getting that work visa was a lot easier, and especially because my company's really big and well-known. And so it just made everything much more smoother. Oh, yeah, it is, like I said, it is a huge effing challenge, but trust me, when you finally, like, are paying your own rent, and maybe you're not having the nicest, I mean, like, but it's not a bad life either, because obviously when you are going to the West, right, it definitely has its perks, such as, like, they have really great infrastructure, and even, like, what would be the equivalent of a quote-unquote, like, shitty bar in India or Nepal is, like, still very nice, like, in fact, some of those like the best, like, they're better than the bougie ones because it's like the bougie ones are just filled with, like, bougie people, but, like, it's like the little, like, local places, like the ones that actually have character, those are, like, it's definitely enjoyable, like, the quality of life in Western countries, and that's why people migrate there is, but it is definitely a struggle, and you also have to, like, figure out paying taxes, it's, all of this, so, I know, it's so new to me. I was like in January, I made my first, like, mutual investment. What? So we had, like, our mom and dad's business to fall back to if anything, bad happened with our passions, quote unquote, or, I knew that, like, if I really wanted to, I could take over, my mom's school, and automatically I would be, like, director, but, like, what did I do to become this? Like, okay, I'm not, like, so to speak, I know I'm not, like, stupid and I could definitely do things, but it's just, like, but really, like, is that, like, I mean, that's comfortable, right? That is so comfortable, and, knowing that, you're going to have this and that, right? And so I just feel like, definitely, and, on the path that you're going on, I definitely think that you should do it. Obviously, but be realistic about it, right?
I'm just trying my hardest.
So, like, I'm glad that you're just, like, I know it's going to be expensive. So I'm just telling you, even, like, right now, I kind of even thought, like, I would barely walk back home. Like, if it was not my scooter, it was a car. If it was not a car, it was a taxi, Or literally, it would be like, I'm calling my friends to pick me up, right? Yeah. Like, here, you have no friends to pick you up. Or the friends that I do have, they're all as poor as I am. Like, nobody has a car, Like, and, and, like, honestly, like, Uber, like, unless you're going to do, like, an express pull where you have to, like, walk freaking 5 minutes away, and then they only drop you 5 minutes away to your destination, like, realistically, you need to be on a budget. You cannot
Don't
just
you have, like, public transport and stuff, like metros and buses and all that stuff?
Yeah, LA, like, I feel like LA
is really bad at, like, public transportation.
Yeah, I was going to say, I actually think they have a terrible system. But, you find ways, and like, you might just have to purchase a bicycle and just cycle everywhere because, like, you have lovely weather.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just things like, it sounds fun and it looks cool for Instagram, but, it's sometimes it's annoying that you have to, like, park your bicycle everywhere and, like, or, like, people legitimately steal bikes, which I thought was like so dumb because I'm like, who's gonna steal a bike? But
No.
literally, yeah. So it's all these things in mind, but also don't let that scare you. That should kind of just like, I just want you to be like motivated and prepared mentally, because these are things that I feel like you can definitely have a talk about, you know, with people who've done it, so that you don't have to like, you have realistic expectations, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of people say, like, everyone should, you know, go through their own, like, mistakes and learn from them. But also, if there are things, like, practical things that are not going to enrich your life because you've had your stolen from you, like, if you, like, you know, like, literally, like, that's unnecessary, right? I don't think you need to live through the hardship of someone stealing your bike. Like, that, you know, if I'm telling you, watch out. People actually legitimately steal bikes, and just even the wheels, like, you have to think about that, right? If not the whole bike, the wheels. And then that's going to be even more embarrassing for you to try and like lug a one thing bicycle, right? I'm just like being honest, right? And like even like even Uber, right? Like again, in India and stuff like that, it was like, yeah, whatever, you know, you don't really think about it. I don't know like about you, but like for me, I had so much like pocket money because like that's all I was like earning. So it was just like I didn't even like think about it. I didn't think about like even keeping receipts. Over here, taxes, dude, you need all of your receipts. I was like, no, and I feel like if you really want to make it happen, you will make it happen.
Yeah.
I mean, people have immigrated with far less education than you, with less money than you, with less support, and they've done it. And all the time, my mom always shares a story to me and my sister about it. She's just like, you know, in the times that I do complain, and it's, you know, like I said, it's not always a pretty rosy story that it's suddenly success when you come here, right? Yeah. There have been times when I'm just like, Mom, I just want to come back, like, send me tickets. You know, my mom literally just like, stop. She's like, I did not send you just for you to cry and come home because you're having a bad time. Yeah. My mom is, she's great for me and my sister. And she'll always be telling, you know, like when she used to travel to America. So my dad, who works for this American organization, so they're in America a lot, right? And she was like in Pennsylvania somewhere, and she teaches like she's a counselor kind of thing. So she does like peace counseling and all that. So they had invited her. So she was in Pennsylvania, and there was a little like Nepali restaurant somewhere near the university that she was teaching in. And, you know, obviously they had found out she was Nepali, so they were like, hey, do you want to go for lunch at this place? And she was like, oh my God, yeah, let's go. She went there, and then it seems that there was 3 Nepali sisters who ran that, the restaurant, right? Yeah. The eldest sister, her parents literally sold everything they had in the village, like cows. Like, I'm not even talking about, like, tangible, like, literally, like, they sold cows, their land, like, ancestral land for her to go to America, right? She worked her butt off in America. She was going to a community college in the middle of, like, honestly, bumfuck nowhere. It was, like, Idaho. Like, that's where you get potatoes, right? Yeah. To the point where she was just, like, Kathmandu was more of a bigger city than this, like, little town that she was in. It was, like, nothing, right? Because we have this perception that the West is only, like, you know, huge buildings, glamorous cities, and stuff like that. But there are also, like, literally suburbs. Nothing, right? Yeah. So she, like, did it, but she, like, worked her way up, right? And again, you know, at the end of the day, her parents were quite poor. So she went to, like, a government school. She did good in her college, so she went to a pretty good college. But, like, you know, her English was also not as good. She definitely didn't have any resources. She had a one-way ticket. You know, like there was no holidays to come back, nothing like that. Long story short, these girls who came out of nothing have made a great thing for themselves. It's a small restaurant. It wasn't like fancy or anything, but, you know, she was able to like restart her family's life because they had literally sold everything for her. So she was able to get them all there. So motivation for you is that literally if people like that who literally have nothing, right, you know, they have the determination and grit, and I feel like in our kind of culture and kind of like some of the privilege that we have, that grit and the determination actually like is like we are like less prone to it because we're so comfortable, right? So, you know, we don't really understand the value of $1 or like a rupee, right? Whereas, you know, they really did. So yeah, just be prepared for that. But also, keep that in mind. Like, you can't also come to the West and be converting, being like, oh my God, $100 is 1,000 rupees, you know, because then you're not going to live, right? Because trust me, I have some fellow Indian, like, students here where they don't go out, they never go out, they don't even want to, you know, even for a tea or a coffee, because they're converting. And I get that everyone's financial situation is different. But also, if you've come to a country and you're not embracing what it is and you're not living life there, you might as well just go back home, buddy. Slowly, very slowly, just starting to learn.
Yeah.
But it's a very, like, slow growth, and I will make mistakes, but I will also learn from them.
It's been a year since you came, right?
Yes.
What about, like, just being away from, like, home? I'm, like, scared of, like, just really crying every night myself to sleep. I mean, I'm cool and shit, but then I really feel like I'm too attached to my parents and shit. And like just leaving, and it is going to be like a foreign country and shit.
Yeah, no, it definitely happened. So here's another thing is that because I did grow up in, I don't think I felt homesick. Like, there was times where I felt like, oh yeah, like even this morning when I was talking to mom and dad, like I missed them, but I don't. So I've become so accustomed to just not being with my parents. Yeah. So I don't feel like I can give you any insightful help on that. Yeah. But one way, and this is just generally when I feel bad, is try and keep yourself busy, you know? So even if it just means doing work in a coffee shop on your laptop rather than at home being by yourself with your thoughts, you know, just getting out, and the fact that you know that you cannot cry in a coffee shop without making a scene, that also really helps. And who knows, you might start a conversation with the barista or the server or whatever, you know? So that's what I do on, like, days that I feel very, very low, you know, but, you know, and over here, you can literally buy one drink and you can stay there the whole day. There's not, like, no one cares, like, everyone's cheap here, so, like, you know, no, like, really, you know, so it's just, like, there's no, like, just be very, like, mindful and just be hella prepared to do all the Googling research and talk to.
I'm just really, really, really worried about the expenses because I saw, like, the average rent to be, like, $2,000, and I'm like,
So, I know that I'm assuming, I mean, this is when, like, really, like, Facebook, social media is a blessing. Look into, like, I know that in Toronto there's, like, a home, like a to find homes. It's called, like, Buns Toronto Home. It has, like, I want to say it has, like, 300,000 members, and I literally found my spot through there for free, so I didn't have to use a realtor or anything. So, and I'm sure in LA they have tons of places. Get invited into those groups, right? A lot of the time it's literally just asking to join the group, see what, you know, prices are, talk about, you know, you can even post, just be like, hey, I'm potentially moving in, you know, 31st, whatever, July next year. And I'm looking for this. This is my maximum budget. Let me know if you have any leads, thanks. And then usually you put, like, a picture of yourself because people want to know who you are. And you do that, and usually you would get, like, you know, people suggesting, or they're looking for a roommate and things like that. And I am saving, like, $1,500 by living with, like, a roommate than having to pay the whole rent, right? And you know what? The first place you go to in LA that you live doesn't have to be your last, right? We have this intention that we have to find the perfect place. And no. My first place in Toronto, because I wanted to be close to my college, was a house that I shared with 10 other people. I mean, like, we all had our own rooms and stuff. Yeah. It was like, this is their college life, and I was like, oh my god, and I was, like, so appalled. Like, I was like, this is disgusting, and I was like, my nose was up in the air because I was like, I'm too good for anyone in this house. But it's just like, we're not, you know, we're all living here, we're all from different backgrounds. This is my second place, and I'm actually moving in a month to a place that's closer to my work, right? So you're definitely going to be in a transitional phase. Yeah, but you know what? It's going to be a challenge, but, at the end of the day, I think...
It's going to be like a huge return on investment.
Yeah, for sure. Anyways, Devika, I've had such a great conversation. I feel like I've just, given you verbal diarrhea.
Not at all. I had, the best time speaking. And we'll keep in touch. I'll have you, again on the podcast. You have to consume Gary.
For sure, I'll do that.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming today. It was, the greatest conversation, and you were such a great support.
Okay, have a great night, morning. What time is it there?
It's 5:30 a.m.
Oh my god, okay. Have a great morning, and I'll talk to you soon, okay? And also, like I said, always, super good luck with whatever you're doing, and I'm 100% behind you, okay?
Thank you. I love you.
Amazing. Love you too, girl. Have a good morning.
You too. Have a great rest of the day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
She wanna spend the night, but she can't spend the night. She wanna be my wife, but she can't be my wife. Yeah. She said she hate when I go. She want me to stay. Wish I didn't have to leave so soon. It's too late. I'm already on the first flight out to the door. My phone doesn't work